Content warning. Episodes of Gray Matter may contain themes and depictions of extreme mental illness, traumatic bodily harm, and death. If you aren't in the right headspace to engage with those depictions right now, maybe this episode should wait for another time. Otherwise, proceed with caution.
Hi there. Welcome back to Gray Matter. And congratulations. If you're here right now, and I for one think that you are, that means you've survived something terrible. Whether it was an accident, a disease, an act of violence, or just the quiet desperation of a life you never asked for, you have survived. You should be proud of that. But what does survival mean? Is it an action, a compromise, a state of being, or is it just what living things do because we don't know any other way? Maybe this tape will help you find an answer for yourself. It's called A Little Malignant, and it's the story of a young couple trying to overcome the worst homecoming gift that a cancer survivor can possibly receive. Strap in, it's gonna get weird. A Little Malignant. Written and directed by Jonathan Inbody.
Well, here we are.
God, it's good to be home.
I'll bet. Go sit down on the couch. I'll grab the rest of the stuff from the car.
Claire, I can help.
Go sit down. You know, now that you're back home, my mom wants to swing by one night with a lasagna for us or something.
Oh yeah? What'd you tell her?
I told her you need your rest.
Is this a negotiable position? Because I think I might need lasagna a little bit more.
It's really good to have you back, Toby.
It's good to be back. For a while there, I didn't think... sorry, I'm... still kind of fried, I guess.
A doctor cut your head open and took a piece out of it. I think you're entitled.
I am sorry, though. Well, not about that, but... well, before the hospital, when I was just... I know it's been a hard couple of months. I'm sorry I've been...
You don't have anything to apologize for.
Look, I know you have to say that I haven't been a burden, and I know that you mean that, but I have. And I'm sorry. I know it hasn't been the first year of marriage either of us envisioned, and we're young, and I know it's not really my fault, but it hasn't been fair to you.
Fair to? You almost died, Toby. I almost lost you. And yeah, things have been shitty. Life has been shitty. But I'd do it all over again. Every time.
God, I don't deserve you.
Oh, shut up.
Listen, now that we're a little bit out of the woods, I've got something I need to tell you.
Little early for a divorce, don't you think? No, but I'm here. I've got something to talk to you about, too. You know that... I got it. Don't move. It's yours. It's Dr. Russell. I'm going to answer.
Okay. I leaned my head back into the sofa cushion and closed my eyes. God, it was good to be home. I had missed it. As for the hospital and the tumor the size of a baby's fist that they pulled out of my head, I was just glad it was over. But after the surgery, from almost the exact moment I had woken up, there was some part of me that felt almost incomplete. Maybe I had gotten used to the feeling of having something trapped inside me that wanted me dead. Or maybe it was just the invasiveness of the surgery. But I felt different.
What does that mean? No, I understand that. I just don't... Yeah. Yes. We will. Bye.
What was that about?
I don't know. It was weird.
Well, what did he want?
You didn't have to get up. He wouldn't really say what he was asking exactly. He wanted to know if we had seen anything.
Seen anything?
That's what he said.
Like what?
I don't know. So, what did you want to talk to me about?
What the hell?
What was that? The cat's still at your sister's, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna check the back door.
I can...
Hey, let me do this, okay? Please. I need to... I need to prove to myself that I can.
Okay. Be careful.
I walked back across the living room and over to the hall. I felt a twinge of something in my head, just behind my eyes, and I hoped I wasn't overexerting myself. But it didn't feel like an ache, more like an itch under my skull. I stopped at the end of the hallway and looked down it at the back door. The blinds in the door's small viewing window were swaying slightly from one side to the other, and as I looked down, I could see the cat door shaking. Hello? The cat door shook again as something slammed into it from the other side. It was locked, but watching the thin metal hinge jostle with each new impact wasn't bringing me much comfort. The itching in my skull got stronger, almost pulsing against the backs of my eyes. I winced and tried to convince myself that I was imagining it, but with each wet smack against the cat door, it got a little worse. Hey, babe, come here. There's something... I looked back at the cat door and the words died in my throat. Plasmic splotches of gray, soupy material were welling up around the edges of the cat door, seeping inside in uneven chunks and dripping down to the carpet. The cat door began to buckle and bend inward as more of the mealy gunk poured in, meeting a rippling, pulsating puddle that was rolling in through the crack at the bottom of the door. It was seeping, oozing, with chunks of cottage cheese white speckled across the bumpy gray surface, and as each half-liquid glob forced its way through the door, it landed with a sickening splat and lurched to meet the others. They all folded together into a plasmatic, sinewy mound, twitching and pulsing faster with each passing second. It was horrible and disgusting and undeniably alien, but I couldn't look away.
Oh my God!
I turned to see Claire standing next to the bathroom at the end of the hall, then turned back to look at the half-solid thing at the other end. It was growing, bulging, swelling up in uneven spurts like a water balloon being filled with rotten milk. The shape, whatever it was, finished moving through the door, then rolled forward a few inches over the carpet and stopped. At its front, a small, blank shape pressed outward like a featureless face, then slowly turned back and forth as if it were scanning for movement. When it saw me, it froze. Its formless head narrowed and lowered, and I watched bubbles begin to churn and pop in an uneven line all the way down the blob's spineless back, like a cat's hair raising and standing on end. Don't move.
Toby, what is that thing?
I think it's my tumor. The thing shot forward, sending crackles of static electricity bouncing out in all directions as it slid across the carpet. Its front end wetly opened and split into 100 tiny, twisting tendrils, each one snapping out like a whip as the lumpy shape behind it lurchingly propelled them. I stomped down on it as it reached my feet, then watched in horror as its back end flipped up and splatted down onto the front of my shoe. Its opaque fleshy surface came alive all at once, every exposed inch wriggling madly with the barely visible tendrils as I kicked my foot out in a futile attempt to shake it off. Finally, I reached down and pulled my laces apart, then slid my heel out of the shoe and kicked again, sending it flying off my foot and soaring into the back door with a wet slap. As I stumbled back on my sock and grabbed Claire's hand, the tumor was bubbling back together at the end of the hall, churning and roiling over my shoe as it readied another attack.
Look out!
The thing lurched up and splatted onto the wall, then shot furiously toward us like a crawling spider, smashing past framed family photos as it went. Then, before we could even move, it sprang off the wall and latched onto my arm. I felt its cold flesh envelop mine, wrapping around my wrist, and I watched numbly as it began to slide upwards towards my shoulder. I was horrified, frozen, but disconnected from my body, unable to do anything but watch. Claire pulled me into the bathroom and turned on the sink, then shoved my hand underneath the running water. It was scalding, steaming and stinging as it ran over the surface of my skin, and although it took everything in me not to pull my arm away, the gelatinous thing wrapped around my hand didn't even seem to notice.
Oh God, it's not...
I can't hold it.
What do I do?
I don't know. It just... Claire dropped down and began to frantically dig through the cabinet under the sink, then came up with a bottle of bleach. She tore off the spray top and dumped the contents of the bottle down onto the wriggling thing as it started reaching up past my elbow. Steam rose up off the blob's surface and it recoiled, then sprang off of my arm and onto the sink. Claire swung at it with the empty bottle, and it lurched off the counter, plopping down to the tiled floor before shooting away from us and disappearing into the hall. Claire slammed the bathroom door, pulled a towel off of a nearby hook, and stuffed it into the crack at the door's bottom. I heard her panicked breaths heaving in and out, and I could see her hands shaking as she drew them back. I stood at the sink in a horrified daze, silently running my fingers over the skin of my arm like I couldn't believe it was still there. I could feel the bleach searing through the burns from the scalding water, but I couldn't cross the bridge in my mind between knowing about it and doing something. Claire turned and saw me, then stood up and turned the tap to cold water. She ran it over my arm, gently scrubbing at the red patches with a washcloth as we both tried to think of something to say.
What in the fuck?
Is it still out there? Do you think that's what Dr. Russell was asking about, or do you think he meant something else?
That's not funny.
We should call someone. The police, or...
I left your phone in the kitchen.
What about yours? Well, shit.
What do we do?
Well, we can't go back out there.
Well, we can't stay here all night either.
Are you sure? Jesus. What the hell is that thing?
I thought you said it was your...
It is. But, I mean, how can it do that? It's...
Alive? An animal? A monster? What do we do if it comes back?
Well, the bleach seemed to work.
Too bad that was the last of it.
I need to tell you what I was going to tell you before.
What, now?
Yes. Do you remember when I told you that my mom had cancer?
Yeah, you told me a little bit. On the day they found yours.
Well, do you remember when we were dating and I told you that I didn't think I could ever get married because I felt like I was going to die. Like my mom died, and I couldn't do that to someone. Because my dad, it just destroyed him. And I was just a kid when she died. And he was trying to protect me from the worst of it, but I picked up some bits and pieces.
Can we not talk about this now?
And when I was in high school, I tried to look up her doctors. You know, the ones whose names I remembered. And I found this article one of them wrote. And it didn't make any sense to me. But it was about these... Well, there's this cancer in dogs. Not a type of cancer. A cancer. Singular. Some dog a couple of thousand years ago had cancer, and that cancer developed itself into a tumor, and it learned to spread itself to other dogs. It's one of only 3 transmissible cancers ever discovered. A totally unique organism. Just a single-celled dog that reproduces like cancer. And the article talked about the other 2 transmissible cancers and just kind of quick little lines and talked about Henrietta Lacks and all this other shit that's so far beyond me, but the article was suggesting that the doctor might have found a 4th. It said he couldn't verify it, not without more study, but that he had seen it personally, analyzed it with his own equipment. And it didn't say for sure, but he was an oncologist. It must have been in one of his patients. And then I understood, because... well, there were these things I remember from back then, when they were trying to save my mom's life, that suddenly made sense to me. Extremely aggressive. That's what they put in the paperwork. But I overheard one of the doctors talking in the hospital cafeteria after my mom's 3rd surgery. Like it shrank away from the scalpel. Those were his words. Like it was trying to hide from us.
What are you saying?
I think that thing out there wants to get in here so it can get back inside me.
That's crazy.
Have you got a better theory?
No, but it doesn't make any sense.
Do you know what cancer is? It grows. It's alive. It wants to stay alive. Maybe it can't survive on its own yet. Maybe it's...
Is it in the room?
How can it be? Where would it... I looked over at the shower curtain. There had been an echo to the noise, hadn't there? And if it could squeeze under a door, who's to say it couldn't gurgle up through a drain at the bottom of a bathtub? I slowly reached a hand out for the edge of the shower curtain, closed my hand around it, then winced and tried to ready myself to pull it open. There was nothing there. Only... The lid of the toilet seat flipped up and shattered against the tank as a gray blur leapt up from inside the bowl. The tumor bounced off the ceiling, leaving a wet mark, then shot down and splatted onto my chest. Before I could react, it was sliding up my neck, and just before it got there, I clasped both hands over my face. I heard the thing changing shape, shifting and gurgling, then felt tiny tentacles start to push their way in between my fingers. I froze, silently shaking as its lashing fingertips brushed over my lips. I could see the shadow of its pseudo-head moving back and forth on the other side of my closed hands, as if trying to figure out the best way to get inside. Through the cracks between my fingers, I could see a tight, bumpy tangle of pure white muscle suspended at the center of the jelly of its featureless face, pulsing and subtly shifting with each slight move the thing made. It had a brain too. I knew what it was thinking. It wanted to get inside. If not my mouth, then my nose, ears, or anywhere else big enough to squeeze and wriggle in through so that it could curl up between the folds of my damaged brain and start killing me again. A pair of tentacles pushed their way through my lips and twisted around the back of my teeth to get a grip as the thing's head thinned and pressed forward. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my hands clutched tight over my face, but why couldn't I move? Claire tackled me to the bathroom floor with the shower curtain in her hands and wrapped it around the squirming tumor, then twisted the bunched-up curtain and pulled back. The thing's tendrils lashed out for something to hold on to inside my mouth, and I bit down, gnawing through the wriggling bits of bulbous flesh. It tried to rip itself free, almost pulling my teeth out of my gums, and with one furious tug, I flung my neck back and tore its head off. Claire flew back against the door, clutching the wadded-up shower curtain as the back half of the tumor thrashed inside, then swung it over her head and smacked it down into the bathtub. I dove for the toilet and spat the rest of it into the bowl, hacking and gagging as the featureless head and loose tendrils wriggled around in the water like tapeworms. I pulled myself up on the side of the sink and jammed a finger down my throat, then threw up into the drain. There, more stubby gray tentacles swirled in the sink as I turned the water on to flush them down. I splashed some water from the faucet into my mouth, then gargled and spit. All I could do now was hope that I had gotten it all out of me in time. You'd think I'd have known to check the toilet. After all the times I threw up in it after chemo. Claire tugged on my sleeve, white-faced, then pointed down at the tub where the tumor's back half was squeezing out of the shower curtain. In the toilet, a gray shape was bulging up from the drain pipe at the bottom of the bowl. We stumbled out of the bathroom and Claire slammed the door shut. Then we staggered over to the wall and leaned against it, our chests heaving with exhaustion.
It's still coming. How is it still coming?
It's never going to stop. You have to get out of here.
What?
You have to go, Claire. It wants me.
What about you?
I think I have a plan. But I need to know you're safe first.
Wait! Where are you going?
To the bedroom.
Why? Toby, why?
Come on. It's gotta be... there.
You have a gun?
I didn't... Yes. You need to go.
When were you going to tell me? Were you going to tell me?
Well, of course I was.
How did you... Why do you have a handgun in your sock drawer?
I thought I might need it, okay?
Need it? Need it for what, Toby? A mugger?
I don't know.
What were you thinking?
I guess I thought if I couldn't
How could
protect
you do that without telling me?
Then I needed it for me, okay? If I got too sick, or if the chemo wasn't working, I wanted to go with some dignity. I wanted to protect you. When my mother died, she was just... There was nothing left of her. She was skin and bones, covered in bed sores, barely breathing, like a corpse that no one could stand to bury. I couldn't make you watch me waste away. I couldn't let you watch me waste away.
Toby, you...
Look, if things got bad enough, I was going to send you out for something, leave a note on the bedroom door, and lock it behind me.
And then what? Blow your brains out? That was your plan? To spare me what exactly? Like that wouldn't be exactly as traumatic? I love you, Toby. I can't watch you die.
But that's what being in love means. If you love someone long enough, then the reward you get is dying in front of them, or watching them die in front of you. But I wanted to spare you the worst of it, or as much as I could. So that's why this plan exists in the first place.
Is that still your plan?
It wants to get inside me, Claire, and it's never going to stop. I don't know if it's not done cooking or what, but it needs me until it sucks up everything that I am. If we keep running, sooner or later, you're going to get hurt, and I can't let that happen. But if I let it back in my head, just long enough for it to let its guard down, if I die while it's a part of me, maybe it dies too.
We're wasting time. We can get away.
Can we?
Yes. I can get my phone, call someone.
It won't make a difference.
You can't say that. Not to me. Not after everything we've been through. I watched your hair fall out. I walked you to the toilet when you were too weak. Don't give up on me now. It's not fair, Toby.
I loaded the revolver, then flicked my wrist and locked the cylinder into place. Even now, with her eyes red and puffy, and her makeup running, Claire was beautiful. I was ready to die. You know that? I mean, I wasn't, but I came to terms with it. It wasn't hard, I guess, with all the shit life heaps on you. Pain, poverty, taxes and paper cuts. It wasn't hard to come to terms with losing those. The only thing I was really gonna miss was you.
Please, don't do this.
I looked past her at the hallway, where the reforming mound of sickly gray flesh was rolling slowly towards us. It looked tired, the way I was tired, but I knew it could only slow down for so long. It would just keep growing. That's what it did. Grow and never stop. I put my arms out to my sides and opened my mouth. Come and get me. The wriggling thing slid forward, bubbling and lashing and bulging as its stubby tendrils dragged it along. Did it understand? It stopped just in front of my feet, then bent back and raised its front half up like the head of an overweight snake. Its featureless face twitched slightly, and I got the distinct impression that it was smelling the air. Come on. It's not a trap. Just take me.
Please.
Claire, you have to go.
No, I had something to tell you too, remember? I'm pregnant.
What?
I'm pregnant, Toby. We're gonna have a baby.
I stared at her as her eyes welled up with tears, waves of shock rippling over me as the gun weighed heavily in my hand. But then, pulling all of my focus into one last movement, I waved her back with my free hand. She sobbed, then nodded and took a step back towards the open doorway. After a second, she took another. Claire looked down at the floor as it creaked under her foot, then back up at me wide-eyed. On the floor, the tumor whirled, then shot across the carpet like a bullet towards her legs. I had never taken my revolver to the range, or even held it more than twice, but my hand moved before I even had a chance to think about it. Don't you touch her. Don't you dare.
Is it dead?
Here's hoping. I tossed the gun aside and collapsed against the wall, and it wasn't long before I felt Claire's arm lifting mine over her shoulder. She walked me out of the bedroom, taking care to step over the unmoving gray and white splatters on the floor, then led me through the house to the front door and grabbed their jackets. Where are we going?
Anywhere but here. I'm half tempted to burn the place down.
But what if it comes back, pulls itself together again, and crawls after us for the rest of our lives?
You can't destroy every cell, right? You just hope you got enough that it can't reproduce.
Well, you said you were pregnant.
I am. I found out a couple of days ago. I was going to tell you when things calm down so we could decide what to do about it.
We can't have it, right? It's irresponsible. We're too young and, well, that need to reproduce, that desire, without any thought about the consequences, that's cancer, isn't it? Unregulated growth? What's the difference? Because what if the baby's not healthy? What if I pass it on to them? Or what if I don't, but part of it is still in me somewhere, growing, metastasizing?
Then we'll deal with it together. That's what love means. Right?
A Little Malignant was written and directed by Jonathan Inbody. Toby, the narrator, was played by Brandon Machajewski. Claire was played by Alyssa Grace Adams. It was edited by Jeffrey Lavin, with music composed and performed by Samantha Hunt.
Gray Matter is a Word Search Media production. Any similarities to real people, places, or things is purely coincidental.
If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And support us at patreon.com/graymatterhorror.
Be kind. Rewind.